Hey everyone, James from TeaDB here, bringing you another Inbetweenisode. So today, this is actually the first one I am filming of sort of the summer Inbetweenisodes. Tend to film these in batches. So this is the first one I'm filming, not sure if it's going to be the first one released. So today, going to be talking about loose leaf drinking as far as like ripe and I guess raw pu'er goes. It's not the most common thing you're going to run into. Occasionally you'll run into like sort of raw malcha, maybe from this year or something like that. That's probably the most common loose leaf pu'er that people run into. But there's also a separate category of sort of like older, more old school ripes and raws that you can run into. And I think this category does tend to get a little underserved and undercovered in the tea scene. So I think as a result, it is a little underrated when I think these things can be, quite solid for daily drinking. And I don't use that as sort of a more damning term, because I think daily drinking is something that is something that most people do. Most people will drink daily drinkers more regularly than they're going to be drinking special occasion teas and stuff like that. So yeah, I think when we're talking about these teas, you really have to question what are your motivations for buying them. Are you buying it because you want to taste something really, really good, and you're looking at something like from Yee On sourcing stuff like their Peerless and Peerless Bronze or YTT, the nameless one, and you're really looking to sample and try things that are like exemplary examples of that category of tea, or are you looking for something that's just kind of good enough? And so for me, for ripe pu'er in particular, but also a couple other categories, but more than any other category, ripe pu'er is something that I'm really looking for something that's really solid and does not cost a lot. And the reason being is just individual circumstances for me. It's the tea that I drink in the morning with my wife when we're just sort of getting ready. So I'm really not looking to have an experience that blows my mind at 7 in the morning when I'm making this cup. So, that might be you, it might not be you, but I think ripe pu'er is a category of tea that's particularly suited to that and sort of being a very workman-like tea. And when you're talking about workman-like tea, I think loose leaf pu'er is worth considering. One of the reasons people generally prefer cakes and stuff like that is because these loose leaf pu'ers can tend to get a little hollow. The aging isn't necessarily great. So if you are buying something for aging, I don't know that I'd recommend loose leaf pu'er. But if I'm talking about something just to drink, I don't think it's worth excluding. And so this kind of topic came to my head mainly from drinking a lot of Yee On teas. And I noticed a lot of people were not necessarily trying to sample the loose leaf ones, whereas that was something I gravitated towards sort of immediately, actually. And one of the reasons I did is sort of for those things I just talked about, but also because when I would travel to Hong Kong and Taiwan, or I'd been exposed to sort of these teas from a place that tends to be that tended to focus a little bit more on old school drinkers like Origin tea. I noticed that there was a lot of like loose leaf stuff that was very, very kindly priced, including stuff that's fairly old. This is the best taste ripe pu'er tea. That's what they call it. I'm not actually saying this is actually the best. And I think it's if I recall correctly, from like 2007. So we're talking like 14, 15 years old, traditionally stored ripe tea. And I ended up buying about 600 grams of this just because I think it's just super solid for the price. It costs about 10 cents a gram. Not the tea I'm going to actually be talking about today. I'll be talking about another one from Yee On. So Yee On just sort of refreshed a lot of those things in my head, and also gave me some specific teas to talk about and to recommend, just because I think they are pretty good for the price. So going to be talking about their Fulu Shou, which is actually a step even down in terms of price compared to the best taste. For me, I actually think the best taste is the correct buy for me. I enjoy the Fulu Shou. I'm not sure that it's one that I'm going to be buying again, but I would recommend people try it. And so yeah, I mean, these ripe things, these loose leaf ones are nice for a couple of reasons. Just because they can be a great way to try the tea for cheap, And if you're just looking for drinking, I think they're perfectly fine. And I think really these teas are probably something like this. I think is really intended to be sort of an upper echelon dim sum tea and things like that. So if they're interesting, just on as far as like trying, I think don't exclude it. So don't automatically exclude those from your list of things to do. All right, so let's move on to the tea. Okay, so here we are, another day, drinking some of this Fulu Shou ripe. I read a little bit on the Yee On website, and I guess I've in general just been a big fan of the Yee On ripe teas. I think the more humid and traditional storage really does some nice things to these teas, and I'm really enjoying it. And maybe it's just been because it's been a while since I've had the pleasure of having some of these teas. But here we are, again, drinking this tea very casually, as I do most all of my ripe. Had this in the morning with my wife, and this is probably, I don't know, 5th, 6th steep, something like that. And yeah, just been a fan of these teas, and I kind of mixed up my train of thought there. But this tea on the Yee On website is apparently intended for very daily drinking and consumption, which is exactly how I drink my ripe. And, you know, in general, I think I've been a bigger fan of their best taste ripe. I think that one hits the boxes a little bit more for me. I think that one's a little bit more of a tippier blend and is a little bit richer and more intense. And I really, really enjoy that part of it. I had it with some takeout dim sum recently with my friend Garrett, and that was very, very enjoyable. And this tea, I like it still, and it has a bit of that sort of ginseng-y, sort of traditional storage note to it, which I like as well. But it's not to the same level as the best taste. So if I were to recommend just one, I'd say the best taste. This one has a bit more of a rounded taste to it. I think the leaves are more mid to large grade rather than more tippy as they are for the best taste. And so as a result, it's a little bit less intense, a little bit less ginseng. This tea, in general, I'd say is quite woody. Gonna drink this while I make another steep. Yeah, very woody, a little bit of creamy, maybe hints of fruit. I bet if you brew it a certain way, you could get some fruitiness out of it. Yeah, and just a nice round, very soft taste to it. Very, very pleasant, very easy to drink. And yeah, here we go, brewing this. And turns out this pot, I believe, is 180 to 185 milliliters. I had been misquoting something like 250 for years, literally. So I apologize for that. But yes, we now have the correct size on this. Okay, starting to slow down a little bit. Probably got to steep it for a few minutes if I want to get some more steeps out of this. Cheers. Still plenty flavorful, a little bit of ginseng, very woody, just a very sturdy brew, a good probably grandpa brew if you could manage to do that, or just a very, very good casual brew in general. I gave the best taste a 6.5 rating. I'm going to give this a 6.1. I think it's not, doesn't quite hit all the boxes as far as the best taste, but as far as daily drinking goes, I think this is exactly as Yee On has described. So another hit from Yee On. Have a couple more of their ripes to bring on, so I guess it's sort of like the way I do a lot of my ripe episodes is I'll just drink through it, and when I'm getting towards the end of my cake or sample or whatever, I will bring it onto the show. And so in the past, that's been a lot of Yee On sourcing teas. Probably get back to that at some point. But lately, it's been a lot of Yee On teas. So I've been enjoying those. And so you can expect at least a few more ripe episodes. So if you like the traditionally stored ripe, then you have some episodes to look forward to. Okay, well, let me know how you like this episode. If you've tried a lot of loose leaf ripe or anything like that. And I will see you all next time. Cheers.